Hey everyone, Christian here. So in this video, I want to share a visualization technique that I've personally found incredibly useful for thinking about and visualizing how exponential growth works. And of course, compound interest is a form of exponential growth. So when we're talking about exponents, this is the syntax we typically associate with that, right? And we have a base at the bottom here, and then in this top position, this is the exponent. Now we're going to start from, we're going to be working with a base of 2, that's going to be our base, and then the exponent is, we're going to start at 0. And by convention, anything to the 0 power is 1, so that evaluates to 1. So now what happens when we start increasing the exponents here, right? So when we go to 2 to the first power, so that's saying that we have one group of our base, which is one group of 2. So we can do, we're actually going to change that notation. We're going to go back to essentially a counting form. So we're going to count with dots, right? So that's our 1, and then one group of 2, we have 2. So we'll put it in numerals here, in numbers. All right, so now when we go 2 to the second power, what does this syntax mean? The syntax literally means that we have, so that syntax with exponents, remember that we can write it like that. We can write it as 2 times 2. And what is this saying? What is multiplication? Multiplication is repeated addition. So this is saying 2 groups of quantity 2 added together. So we have quantity 1, 2, take 2 groups of those and add them together. That's how we get our 4. For our 4, 2 to the second power, 2 groups of quantity 2. Super. So now let's do the same thing for 2 to the third power, which is, recall what this is saying. This is 2 groups of 2 times 2, of 2 to the second power, which we have already identified is quantity 4, and we want 2 groups of that. So this is 2 groups of 2 to the second power. So that's 2 to the second, 2 squared, and we have 2 groups of them. That's how we get our 8. Okay, so now let's keep going. So this is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That's what the 4 is. We repeat the multiplication 4 times. So this is 2 groups of 2 groups of 2 groups of 2. So 2 groups of 2 to the third power. So 2 to the third power is our 8, and we have 2 groups of those. So we have 5, 6, 7, 8, and we have 2 groups of 2 power 3, 2 to the third power. That's how we get our 16. So 2 to the fifth is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 groups of 2 to the fourth power. 2 to the fourth power is our 16. We have 2 groups of it. So there's 4, there's 2 to the fourth power, and we have 2 groups of that, which gives us 32. Let's keep going, because I've found this visualization gets more useful the higher these numbers are. So let's do a couple more. So for example, how about 2 to the sixth power? Okay, well, it's the same thing. It's 2 to the fifth times 2, repeated multiplication. Exponentiation is repeated multiplication. So we got our 32. We're going to shift it. It's a rectangle long way. We're going to shift it vertically. So we're going to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then that's our 2 to the fifth power, and then we have 2 groups of these. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that is 64, also known as an 8 by 8 grid. Let's do another one. How about 2 to the seventh power? Okay, well, it's the same thing. It's 2 to the sixth times 2. So it's our grid of 8 by 8, 64. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's our 8 by 8 grid of 64, and we have 2 of those. 2 groups of quantity 64. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 groups of quantity 64 gives us quantity 128. Let's do one more. 2 to the 8th power, the same pattern, equals 2 to the 7th power times 2. 2 groups of quantity 2 to the 7th power. 2 groups of 128, so let's write it out. This is 1. Let's be a little better than that. Okay. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That is our 128. And then we have a second group of 2 power 7. So once more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right. So this is 2 groups of quantity 128, which is quantity 256. So if we review over what the actual syntax is saying, so by convention 2 to the 0 is 1, and then 2 to the 1st power is 1 group of quantity 2, and then 2 groups of 2 gives us 4. 2 groups of 2 power 2 of 4 gives us 8. 2 groups of that, 16. 2 groups of that, 32. 2 groups of 32, 64. 2 groups of that, 128. 2 groups of that, 256. So in a very real way, I've found that the physical act of making these grids, of punching out all of the dots on a whiteboard like this, I found this exercise to be very helpful for myself when the base and the exponent aren't quite as straightforward as 2 is the base and the integer and going up by 1 integers. When it's not quite that straightforward, having this cemented really very clearly in my mind has helped me to visualize what's happening with those more complicated scenarios, and we can get into those in future videos. So I hope you found that visualization as helpful as I do. Please let me know what you thought, if you liked it, loved it, hated it. Either way, I'd love to hear it. Leave a comment below, and I will see you in the next one.